My Journal Publishing presents the authors of suspense, thriller, and mystery books Hearth, Fire, and Tangled Webs. Today with your host, Luz De Leon, and guest co-host, Reagan Gerton.
Hello, everyone. I've got Veronica and Viviane here today. Oh, did I pronounce that right? Viviana or Viviana?
It's Bibiana.
Viviana. And they are the creators of Tangled Webs, and the entire series is just, it's a 3-book series I think we're at right now, and it is just a suspense-filled book. It's a thriller, suspense. It's got so much going on in it that we're going to be talking to them about, what created these masterpieces, really, because that's what they really are.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome. To start off, right? First of all, I want to actually ask this. I think I'm supposed to ask Veronica is about your mascot.
Oh, yes. Well, during when Bibiana and I first started the Haunted series, our first book was called Hearth.
Yes.
And my writing room, I'm not in it right now, but anyway, it has an electric fireplace in there. And while I was writing, I was down in the family room, and all of a sudden I heard this boom of like loud music. And I had no idea, the only thing I have in there is the fireplace,
Okay.
and no stereo, nothing in there for music. And so couldn't figure it out. And finally, we were getting ready to unplug it. And all of a sudden I heard this little girl's voice just come over the speaker, and she just went, okay.
Oh, no.
And chills. Really, and she's come up, that was during Hearth Fires. And then second book, Tangled Webs. Same thing. She seems to sense when Bibiana and I are in the creative process, and we have a lot of calls, like daily calls, just to talk about our stories and where we are and stuff. And, this has happened so frequently now. I can't even tell you, it's unbelievable. So,
Yeah, didn't it happen like 2 or 3 days ago?
Well, it did. So we're talking about book 3 in our series that will come out on Labor Day. Labor Day is our kind of launch day for Halloween. Yeah. So can't wait.
Awesome.
And anyway, so we're talking about the third book project. And right after I hung up with Bibiana, same exact thing. Blaring music, so I'm like running upstairs, and then the okay. So, this little spirit, it's really weird, and I don't live in like a, super old house or, or anything. But it's just this little apparition or spirit or entity, whatever you want to call her. She's here. So
that is scary.
Might walk in.
I'm watching something move in the background right now that wasn't moving.
No, that's just the ceiling fan, so we're okay on that.
Okay. Oh my no, that is how do you deal with it? Like, I'm just curious to know, because I would be scared saging the house or maybe just moving.
You already have one in your own house, Luz. So
I do, and I'm always saging. So that's why I said I have to know how you deal with it.
Well, the first thing I do is call Bibiana going, "Wah!" Like screaming and stuff. But, I have like an ample supply of little sage sticks now, so we do that. And what is it that tie the ribbons on the doorknobs, Bibiana?
Yes, the Italian thing where you tie a red ribbon on the doorknob and it keeps the spirits from passing from room to room.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Anyway, so we're trying a couple of different things.
Yeah,
I don't feel like there was any really negative energy or, anything that was, dangerous or anything like that. It was just, it sounds to me like a little girl. And she just says, okay. And she uses the loud blaring music to get my attention, I guess. So
I guess she likes it when you decide to go all creative then.
Yeah. And
I think she approves of what we're writing. So like when we start talking about new stories or developing new stories, she wakes up and she lets us know she's listening.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So
it can be months, months intervals from the time, Bibi and Bibiana and I start, a project and finish one up, and then we did the book launch and all that kind of stuff. But it really is during the creative when we're kind of talking about the next book.
Could it be like maybe like your, I don't know, like the energy of your book manifesting? Could it be that?
It could. It could very well be.
Could be.
So,
that is wild. Bless your heart for dealing with that. Really. Now I know about the ribbon trick, so I'm probably going to be buying that tomorrow and doing it.
It works really, really well. It works very well.
So. We've been seeing some.
Your nieces will appreciate that.
I hope so as well.
Actually, the red ribbon won't help with shadow people, but it will help with like crazy girls in fireplaces with Wi-Fi, maybe.
Well, I guess that works. I guess I won't be able to use it. I'll just continue with, I guess, the sage then and hope for the best. I'm hoping that works.
Yeah.
It's okay, Luz. Your person, just wants your nieces to do their homework. It's okay.
It's clearly... Actually, now thinking about it, could be that. It actually could just be that. That is so interesting. So, so I'm trying to figure out where to start because you guys, I loved Hearthfire. I love Tangled Webs. And I have to ask this one question is, what gave you guys the ideas to add the recipes on the back?
Well, I'll start. I think Bibiana can probably bring that up. She's my Southern muse, I guess. And, it just seems like anytime you have a book, you have to have your little food and drink, right, Bibiana?
Yeah, I mean, to me, we're trying to write towards people who normally don't get time to themselves. Oh. And so we had kind of this hope that the people reading the stories would mix a cocktail and maybe make something yummy to eat and kick back on the sofa and snooze a little with our spooky stories. So we were trying to do like a whole entire experience for people.
And I have to jump into that because my husband has been trying your recipes.
Oh, really?
He did the toad in the hole, I think it was.
Oh, what did he think?
Yep. He loved it. So he's been reading your book because he saw me reading it. And he's like, well, I'll just give it a shot too. But he flipped to the back. So he goes to the back of the book and he's like, there's recipes in here. And he's such a cooking nerd. And he tried the toad in a hole and he loved it 100%. I liked it too. It was actually really good. So
gosh.
Yes. And my husband barely has time to read. So do I. And you nailed exactly what you were looking for.
That's totally amazing. He's the first person I know of that's made that recipe. And I was so excited to include it because it's such a regional dish for the area of, from the story of Spirit Island. Yeah. That, I felt like I had to put like a really regional recipe in that, to reflect the area because that area is so really special,
I'm glad you did because it really, as he was reading it and eating and all this, he was like, oh, sorry, my AirPods just fell off.
Yeah, mine was popping too.
Yeah, they're good at doing that. I should actually try to get these back in. He was just sitting there and he was enjoying it and it worked well with the theme of the book. So he's becoming a fan. Becoming a fan. So, and I'm just gonna let Reagan go ahead and ask a question before I take it because I have tons. And I want people to know about this series. They have to know about it left and right, like everywhere, because it's just so good.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
So what really caught my attention with this book, because I'll be honest with you, I'm very particular to certain genres and I can't do horror. I like supernatural horror. Well, I'm supernatural. I don't like horror because I'm a huge nerd. I play D&D and I play Ars Magica. So like the scarier, like the better. Okay. But I can't do ghosts. That's the line. So when I read the Hearth's Fire, the first story in it was about the Louisiana and the story of the culinary curé.
Coterie, yeah.
Coterie, yeah. And I saw and I was reading that and I'm like, oh my God, this is the best like idea for a witch in D&D if I have ever darn seen one. And I had to. And I'm reading through it and I'm like, oh wow, they tried like really hard to get into like the accent and the research that in this area you would use. And then I noticed that on the other stories as well. That you guys really tried to get into that whole accent mindset. And so with the culinary cutie, at the end of it, right when the grandma comes back and she's like, you shouldn't have done that. And I was just like, oh my God, what happened next? And I was like, my heart was racing at that point. You all are so good at doing that because every time that happened, I'm like, what happens next? There's going to be a side story with this.
Yeah.
So my question is do you guys ever plan to expand any of the short stories? I would love to read that one.
Well, it's certainly come up. I mean, we love Granny Ellie, who is this kind of the main heroine of that story there. But, I think for each tale, at least from what we were, how we set it out was, just to take kind of a concept and just give people just kind of a rush. I mean, with a short story, you have like 5,000 or so words and from start to finish, and you have to kind of, have a fully developed kind of concept there. And so it's kind of hard. I mean, you can't do like really deep character development or, the plots or whatever. So, I mean, it's just something to, try to get your interest and, just make you kind of enjoy the experience, I guess. And then it does leave you hanging at the end. I think about it a lot because, like I said, I love the characters. I love the whole plot and concept of that story. And, there's a lot of different ways we can go. In fact, we always tease, we were supposed to go to a mystery conference in September at New Orleans at FisherCon, which unfortunately they had the hurricane that came in. And so the conference was canceled. But Bibiana and I were like, well, I wonder if Granny Ellie's out, when they were having like the flooding.
Right. I remember we had that artist who said he was going to sneak us into some cemetery or something.
Yeah.
Too.
Oh my gosh.
So we were going to be like jumping over the walls or something and wearing our tennis shoes in the middle of the night, climbing over things. So,
oh my goodness, you guys are wild. Actually, that's wild.
Yeah. No, but it was, it's just really fun because you do think in your head, okay, where are these characters now? I mean, you kind of leave them.
Right.
But this could have some possibilities. So, and especially, down in New Orleans and with all the, it's, city character and history and that, maybe they'll show up sometime.
I
never know.
I hope it does because you definitely, I had a nightmare after finishing that. I think she also did too. I was just,
as I said, greatest witch character I could have ever thought up. I'm like, I'm so sad I didn't think of this.
Oh,
it was amazing.
It was very well done. And you also kind of had me thinking, and I was telling my husband, actually several people who work with our publishing agency, we were talking about it. And I think who was it? Somebody pointed out that is it like a circle of life thing, right? Like people's ashes and flesh are being used for gardening. So we were thinking were you guys trying to tell us what comes from the land kind of goes back to the land and then just goes in okay, you're nodding. So it's
it could be. I mean, that was for that story. I mean, that was kind of the premise is that you get, that, what did they call it? It was some kind of DNA kind of transference between the animal and plant life and what have you, and it was just really intriguing, and, it's a far out there, it kind of has like the Stephen King creep show kind of elements,
Definitely.
and stuff. But, I think that's the whole part, is letting your imagination kind of go wild on, with these things. And just, there are no boundaries, since we're writing kind of, supernatural, paranormal fiction. So it's kind of like, let's see where this goes,
Yeah. That's very well done. I was going to also say, like, with, I can't remember the name of the actual story. It was in Tangled Webs, where the town would basically, anytime modernization came through, convent would come around, basically, like, get rid of it. I have to ask, like, what was the inspiration between that? Because I noticed that the place was called, like, Fell, I think it was. And I'm like, are we hinting that modernization is a downfall? Or are we trying to, like, portray something? Or are you just like you said, just leaving it open? Like, I'm curious to know the inspiration behind that one.
Well, I think in Tangled Webs, and I'll let Bibiana speak to this too. I mean, here we were in year 2 of the lockdown, and dealing with the pandemic and stuff. And I think with Tangled Webs, that really, all of the stories in that book, I think, were based from just experiences and things that Bibiana and I observed, during the pandemic, during the different lockdowns. And for Havisk is that story. It was set in Norway, and just one of my favorite places to travel. But I think the thing that kind of triggered me for that story was all on, there was a lot of talk last year about climate change and just the impact on the earth and, what are we doing? And the other thing too is, if you remember during, when we first started the lockdowns, the one thing that I do remember and just miss dearly is how clear the air was. And, and there was like no noise because we didn't have people driving on the freeways and stuff like that. And so those kind of things just kind of hit me for it. And Bibiana, I'll turn it over to you. I mean, you have some similar, I guess, perceptions for your stories too, in terms of what inspired you.
Oh yeah. I mean, well, for me, really, both of these series, because the series was born during the pandemic. So to me, our first one, Hearth was written 6 months basically it was actually published 6 months into the pandemic. And then the second one we started planning basically right after the other one was done, because we had so much fun with it. So, but
not knowing what 2021 was going to bring,
hoping it would be amazing and all this would be over. But, here we are, it's like Groundhog Day, to a million power. But, for me, all of the stories that I wrote really were kind of pulling from the emotions I was getting from people. I'm an empath. Okay. And so when there are people being quiet, sometimes I'm like, oh, maybe I should just get off social media, because usually that means we're all going to have a really bad day. You know what I mean? So I'm like, out of here. But what I did was, took all that fear, confusion, nightmares that I was even having, and turned all of it into stories. I just used all of it.
That is honestly beautiful, because I actually, was one of my questions, like, what inspired it? And that is, I mean, that's good. And one thing I noticed throughout both the books is you have that empathy in there. You have where emotions and feelings and sensations and such, they play such a huge part of everything that goes on in there. And I think, you kind of think to yourself as a person, it's like, well, senses and feelings they're just that. You don't really pay attention to them, but you make us as a reader, you make us just focus on that and realize, hey, this is actually a sensation of feeling. This is happening, and like, for example, with Reagan, how she was freaking out at the end of the story, you both added these things in there, and very well done. And I said to myself, like, one of them has to be an empath. It has to be, because it's just, it's there. It's to its core. It's raw emotion, and you just played it real well. Like, I'm stuttering because you answered that for me, and it shows in your work. It shows in your work, and honestly,
thank you.
It's well done. It's very well done. I'll let Reagan go ahead and ask if I've got so many questions for you guys.
So my next question for you ladies is, when you were writing into the stories, which story or which character did you guys identify with the most between you? Because I noticed that you guys, in one of your author notes at the end of the first book, you talked about how you had visited like Louisiana, and that was the inspiration behind the culinary curé.
Yep.
And how you were just so like awed by the spice like culture that it was. So what story in of itself did you guys like either identify with, or a character in there that you felt like was really you, if there was one?
Ooh.
I don't know. It's really hard. I think for both Hearth Fires and Tangled Webs, I think I'm the person that does kind of the comic relief. So like in culinary coterie, with Granny Ellie and that, I mean, that was kind of, like I said, it's a little off the wall. And the same in Tangled Webs, when I had a Sculpture of the Dead, I love Grace in there, who is like, the sculpture, that, kind of has a mind of her own. And, I just really, both of those stories are a little campy and, have just a twist of the bizarre in there. And, but I just, that's kind of my element, I guess. And, but Bibiana, on the other hand, she, as far as I'm concerned, she takes us into, I guess more of the scary world. I mean, it's very different kind of, styles in writing. And Bibiana, I'll let you jump in on yours. So.
Well, I guess in Hearth Fires, the character I identified with the most was probably Camille in La Fevre, the artist in Paris who actually has been working really hard, and she gets to the point where she's really become a success, but it's still not good enough. And she's like, sort of becomes, really obsessed.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And like, instead of her just being happy for where she's at or whatever, she sort of goes a little bit loony and starts painting all these crazy pictures, So I definitely related to her, because sometimes when I get in a writing mode, I will sit in exactly the same position for like 8 hours and then try to stand up, and like my knee will almost give out.
Oh my goodness.
Because there's like no blood running through it, because I'm so focused on what I'm doing that I don't realize I'm thirsty. I need to stand up. I need to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand Camille a lot in the first book, and in Tangled Webs, I'd have to say Pietra, the character in Ragno Desante.
Yeah.
Mainly because of the fact that more than one job I've had in my life, people have told me I was replaceable. And when Pietra is basically it's kind of inferred that she's replaceable. So there was some personal experience in that. I mean, I don't have the metamorphosis, thank goodness, that Pietra has in that story. Thank goodness. But I did really relate to the idea, though, that you're working really hard for people and maybe they don't know what your home life is like. Mm-hmm. And you're doing a really great job. But instead of them being appreciative, they just keep taking more and more and more until you get to the point where you're like, okay, the last piece of straw just broke, and I'm gonna get a little crazy on you now. So
it's relatable. Yeah, that's that's amazing. And make sure you get up and get some water. Have someone bring you some water. I know how that is.
I'm guilty of that. So
definitely.
Yeah, I have a timer now. I flip it over.
Ooh.
So I have like one of those creepy timers, like from The Wizard of Oz, with the sand in it.
Mm-hmm.
So when the sand is all gone, I have to get up and do a 5-minute jump on the little mini trampoline, or do like 5-minute yoga ball, crazy stuff. So
that is smart and healthy. I'm gonna steal that idea from you.
Yeah, it's fun.
Start doing that. So my next question, we'll wrap up soon, is just how did you two come together to do this? Like what prompted it? Yeah, because it's two authors. It's two different authors coming together to write a series. And it was in the same genre. I did not like it. It flowed so well that for me, it was just one of those things, as I read it, where you guys didn't step outside of like the genre. It was just smooth, like a roaring river. I get it, a roaring river, just like rolling down, and it was just perfectly well done. Like I've read books with two authors, and I've seen where, one author tries to like, change the subject or the genre of the book into something else, or this randomly placed story that doesn't make any sense to like the theme of the book or anything like that. How did you guys come together to do this? Because I'm curious, and I'm sure other people who are going to be viewing this are going to be curious. It's like, and just to be able to write this, how did you guys come up with the idea? What was the process? Because I need to know, because I've never actually worked with another author because of that fear of, what if, they decide to add something that we don't even think fits into the book.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Veronica, didn't we kind of start this by going to the world's most haunted house?
Well, it was first before that. I mean, Bibiana and I met on Twitter, actually.
Oh,
and, it just kind of, followed each other and stuff. But, I started reading her books. I have a cozy mystery series that Bibiana started reading, and like, so we just started, kind of exchanging maybe some DMs every now and then. And then finally we said, well, you want to talk on the phone? Sure. Yeah. But anyway, it just kind of grew from there. And we actually met in person. My husband and I flew to Savannah, where Bibiana and her husband lives, and we had like a weekend, and she showed us around the haunted streets of Savannah, and we had some early morning coffee meetings, just talking. And that was right before, really things started to shut down. In fact, I got really sick. I think I actually caught COVID from that trip and was sick for a while, but finally got better. And we did meet up one last time at the most haunted house in
the Winchester Mansion in San Jose.
Oh,
yes. So
oh my goodness.
And that was that was in March 2020. And then the world shut down.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, there was nothing. And, and I think we just had decided to, what are we going to do? I mean, because, I've never been through a pandemic or a lockdown. I've never seen it in all of my years, and had no idea what was coming. And that was scary. I'm going to put it out there. I was scared. But I think, just in talking with Bibiana, I mean, we just kind of made a decision that, let's try and do something. We had no idea what was going to happen in the world. But we, I guess we're both very committed to our writing career, and we just thought, let's do something. And I think because, I had read her previous book, she read mine, we kind of knew each other's style. And I don't know, Bibiana, you want to talk about, we kind of set a theme and,
Yeah, I mean, with because of the fact that Veronica was writing like full-length novels and not doing any short fiction, we did mess around a little bit. Remember, right? We did some flash. We messed around, did a little flash, but then what we did was we started talking about like Poe and Joyce Carol Oates and some of really, in my opinion, the best short story writers that will ever live.
Yeah.
And we started looking at kind of their style and kind of discussing whether or not, we could not necessarily mimic their style, but look at how they presented these stories almost like in the most active scene, but at least with enough, detail so you don't feel like you're sort of in outer space and you're meeting these characters, like you see where they are.
Yeah.
And so we kind of boiled it down to what I call the mini superfast novel.
Okay.
So these short stories, what the attempt was even though you don't have the time or that descriptive room like in a novel, we tried to have a beginning, middle, and an end, and always that twist. So that's kind of that style that we created for this series, because we felt like it was important to give people a payoff at the end of these stories to make them feel a really strong emotion at the beginning, but an even stronger one maybe at the end, like, what just happened to me? You know?
Said that,
So because I don't know about you guys, but sometimes when I read short stories, especially literary fiction, it's just like we all were friends and then something bad happened and now we're going to pan over and we can see like the sun setting behind a tree.
Yep.
And you know what? It just doesn't feel satisfying to me.
Nope.
You know, that's like the bread you put in the toaster and the toaster won't like stay down. So it never really fully toasts, you know?
That's a good one.
And and you know, the words and the prose and everything might be beautiful, but you just don't get that sort of, you know, exhilaration. And so we were kind of going, I think we were using the fear and the confusion and everything else that was going on and sort of using that as fuel to really distill it into these short stories in kind of the strangest sort of ways, as you know. But, you know, these stories are not typical ghost stories. They're kind of, you know, they have elements of mystery and horror and I mean, everything.
But we also made boundaries too. I mean, we didn't want to go like in the blood and guts and gore thing. I mean, that's just not us. And, you know, I mean, that's fine. And I read it every now and then, but, you know, it's not like my favorite, you know, genre there. So, I mean, we set some boundaries. We had a theme for each book. For Hearth Fires, it was the Ouija board. For Tangled Webs, we went into a, you know, like a spider web, and not necessarily using those came up in each of the story, but not in a traditional, like we didn't have people, you know, playing Ouija and you know, that kind of thing. Or, you know.
Yeah, because now you mention it, I remember the Ouija board being in every story at some point. So now that you mention that, it makes it, you know, it's like, oh, fun fact.
No, it is. And it, you know, it's just a way to kind of keep us kind of centered. And, you know, even though the stories were very different and, you know, it's tough too. I mean, Bibiana's in East Coast in Savannah and I'm in, you know, Southern California. And so we have time hour difference, you know, time zone difference and stuff. But, you know, we made it work, you know, and you know, we talk to each other at the strangest times.
Yeah, we do. We have the strangest conversations too. So.
I mean, you both have great energy, honestly. Like you both do. And it's portrayed in your work. And I like that she mentioned, you know, guys, you didn't, Veronica mentioned that you don't have that gore and that blood in there. And it was just right. It was like, you provided all that, I'd say horror, but yeah, it is horror, like suspense, the thrill, everyone's heart pounding. You did that and you didn't have gore. That is impressive, honestly. Like,
thank you.
Yeah, no, I commend you both because I'm not a fan of gore, but at the same time, I respect that whole, I guess, genre you could say, but it was well done. Wow.
See, we're the other way around with that because I like gore. I can handle a lot more gore than I can like horror. Okay. Like I can't watch The Exorcist.
Yeah.
I can't.
The Exorcist is scary, man. It is scary.
I never watched that.
The worst part is that's considered a thriller and not horror. So when The Nun and the Paranormal Activity all came out, like I can't even watch the TV version of Paranormal Activity without all the lights on. But I still
have you watched the Babadook? Have you seen the Babadook?
No.
Oh my God, don't see it. Oh my God.
I can't even.
So it's like something crawling around on the ceiling and stuff.
I can't do Chucky. I can't do it. Like all of that, I can't do it. So as I'm reading your stories, I'm getting that heart going, and it's like I'm like, oh, what's gonna happen? Oh, is this happening? And then finally, it's just like I turn the page, and it's like, oh, that happened, and then it was over, and I was like. Oh, come on. Because I was like, I would love to really like see these short stories turned into like a full-blown like series and of itself because they're so good. Like I would love to know what happens next.
Yeah.
And I agree that a lot of short stories, they don't have that what happens next because they finished it. It's over.
Mm-hmm.
That's the end in them. And I'm just very happy to read those stories. You guys meshed so well. I didn't realize you guys were two different authors until I had to go back to figure out what kind of questions I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
Because I was seeing all the different writing styles change and the accents change and then the research for it. And I'm like, oh, she really tried to like get this as authentic as possible. And I'm from Florida, okay? So I was picking out a lot of this and I'm like, oh, that's right. I'm like, huh. Weird. Okay, but let's keep going because it changed so much. I'm like, oh, this is really great research because I didn't know, what was what. And then I go back and I'm like, okay, wait, why are there different names on these chapters?
Mm-hmm.
Are these two? I asked Luz like 3 hours ago. I'm like, are these two different people?
We're definitely very different people. Yes.
Yeah. But we still love each other and we have fun. And hey, I'm a big Bibiana fan, and I think she admires Veronica every now and then. So,
same here. You were Luz. You were asking about collaborations, and I've done more. This is not my first one.
Oh,
it's my first one with an author like what I'm doing with Veronica. But I've worked on a few pretty big collaborations, and let me tell you, this is the only one I've been on. Other than a new one that I'm in also, not with Veronica, with someone else. But the ones previous to that, I kept making the same mistake over and over. And it's the same mistake that you make sometimes in your love life. Like you meet somebody and you're like, oh, they're hot, or oh, they're smart, or they're funny, or whatever. But your stomach kind of gives you this weird little, like something's not quite the way it's supposed to be kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And or they say stuff and then they say something different, even though it's supposed to be something that's factual, like their birthday or where they're from or whatever. And, you get those signals, you know what I mean? And you ignore them. Well, in a collaboration, it's the same thing. So if you get any of those feelings about somebody before you basically marry them in the collaboration, because your name's going to be on it, you're going to be meshed together forever, you really have to kind of vet them almost to the extent of if I had a guest house, would I be okay if this person lived in my guest house for 6 months and came in my house and made coffee and knew that I didn't wear makeup, before 6 a.m. or what, So you have to kind of look at it in a really personal, down to earth kind of way, because our collaboration is so awesome because Veronica and I can call each other whenever and say, I'm having trouble, or I have this idea. What do you think? And it's very open and very respectful and fun. And if you have the wrong person, it would be the dead opposite of all of those things.
Okay. That is some good advice, actually, something I probably needed to hear today. That is some good advice. I would have never thought of that because, when you want to collaborate, you're super excited and you're just going in for it.
Right.
Because it's like, you're right. It's like a love life. It's somebody new. It's spicy. It's exciting.
It's a relationship. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That is, that's brilliant. Honestly, I'm just wowed by both of you guys. You just wonderful women in general. Like like I say, your aura is amazing. You guys are just so kind. Your work shows it. And your adventures trying to get into a cemetery. If that happens, I want pictures.
Yeah, I'm imagining it now, and I'm just like, oh.
It's like, oh yeah, we know those two ladies.
Yeah, well, it's always an adventure with Bibiana, I will say that. But I love it. And so we take each other into places that we probably wouldn't venture by ourselves, I guess. So
true that.
That is
so. Bibiana, you mentioned a collaboration. With that in mind, are you guys planning on releasing another collaboration between you two, or do you have any other works you guys are working on, planning on releasing later that you think we should take a look at later, or at least read? Because I'm definitely
excited. Yes, definitely.
I am excited. I am very excited. Yes. So I want to know what you guys are gonna probably bring out.
Well, we do actually have book 3 that's in development right now. We haven't released the name of it. We have chosen some of the cover art, and it is even crazier than 1 and 2.
Yes.
So apparently that's the speed factor on this series, is it gets weirder, stranger, and scarier, but still no gore, no anything, recipes. You're going to travel. And Veronica, have you chosen your places where we're going to go yet?
Well, I've got in Central California, so I'm going to be in Morro Bay, and still deciding, maybe like Switzerland near the CERN Institute and stuff. And I haven't decided exactly where the last one's going to be yet.
The third one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. But Viviana, you have yours.
Yeah, this morning. Well, actually, last night I started composing my second story. You know, what I do is I compose them in the draft, and then I let them just sort of like sit and hang out alone in a room with the lights off, and then I come back and see what's going on. Yeah. But the first story takes place in Japan.
Ooh.
So all of the characters will be Japanese.
I'll just say that. Oh,
this one's a doozy, man. It's a doozy. So that one is the first one I've drafted, and the second one is going to be in Medellin, Colombia.
Okay.
And the third one will be on Mackinac Island in Michigan. So.
Okay. Island, Michigan. Okay. Yeah. We're going places. That's awesome. Honestly, guys, you're both amazing. And I just realized I should probably wrap this up. We went over everything. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, you don't apologize. Like, mate, it's just honestly, you're amazing. And please post pictures of your travels just so we can all see it. She's nodding like, yes, show us.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm living vicariously through you guys, so just visit everything for me.
Yeah, no, that's the one thing with it, with the lockdown, since nobody could travel. I mean, that's, I was fortunate enough to be, take some wonderful trips, and same with Bibiana. And so we wanted to put that out. So, because people can't travel anymore, or it's very hard, or who knows what's going to happen tomorrow in terms of, how the world's going to be. But anyway, right. But that's a very, essential element that we want to make sure, goes through each of the books is, we're going to take you places.
Right. So you're traveling. Yeah.
I love it. You guys are amazing. Oh, well, anyways, thank you guys for coming on. Honestly, I appreciate it. And we're excited for the third book. Everything is amazing. Thank you so much for coming on, guys. Honestly. I think we have a next podcast, but we haven't thought of what it's going to be yet. But now you guys are probably going to be okay with us bringing you back, maybe.
I would love that. No, thank you.
That would be, that would be absolutely amazing. And, we do have a little announcement, if you guys don't mind.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Like an hour ago, we actually just got word that a contest, the Firebird Book Award contest, we entered Tangled Webs, and Veronica entered a couple of her cozy mysteries as well. And we took a haul. We actually won 5 categories for Tangled Webs.
Yeah. Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And Veronica, I don't even know how many categories. I was like, oh my God, I was losing my eyesight looking at how many things she won. I was dang, girl, go.
Yeah, we were very lucky. And, that was just a super way to start the year here now. It's like, wow. So,
yeah.
But,
congratulations, you guys. You guys keep doing amazing. Like, get all the awards. Just take them, honestly.
We're ready.
That is amazing. So, all right, thank you guys for coming on and announcing that. Take care of yourself.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. You guys take care. Okay, stay safe. You have my emails. Let me know if you need anything else. Okay, hon?
Okay. All right.
Thank you. You guys take care.
I'll see you later. Bye.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us on our author interview vodcast. Make sure to subscribe, follow, and leave comments below.